back again with another review, and this is actually a redo. But today I'll be talking about and reviewing the 1999 flick, Deep Blue Sea, directed by Renny Harlin. And right off the bat, to me, this is an entertaining flick. I do find this underrated. And when it comes to Renny Harlin, I never understand the bad rap and the stigma when it comes to his work that, he's a bad director. I strongly disagree. To me, he's directed some great movies, Elm Street 4, Die Hard 2, Cliffhanger, The Long Kiss Goodnight. A few years after this, he would direct a film called Mindhunters. That's a good flick, and I do have that somewhere. The Adventures of Ford Fairlane, that's a good comedy from back in the day. So I'm a Renny Harlin fan. And again, I'll never understand the bad rap and the backlash when it comes to his work. But, getting into this film, the plot of the film, you have these researchers that work for this underwater laboratory called Aquatica. You have this woman scientist who's played by Saffron Burrows. And she has genetically altered the brains of these captive sharks to potentially find a cure for Alzheimer's disease. And, they're Mako sharks at this lab. And you have Samuel Jackson's character, who's a suit, and he wants to make sure that the testing, goes smooth before they go to human trials. So he travels out to Aquatica, which again is these research labs out in the middle of the ocean, and you have these underwater laboratories, where they do, testings and stuff. And that's when we're introduced to the other characters. You have Thomas Jane, his character in the film, Michael Rapaport, LL Cool J. And when it comes time for testing, they get one of their sharks, and something happens where there's an unexpected side effect, with, I guess, extracting the protein. That the unexpected side effect is that it made the shark smarter. So one of the sharks that, they're doing this test on sort of breaks loose and bites this guy's arm off. And, they're trying to figure out, they're trying to get out of there and, evacuate, this guy. And meanwhile, on the surface, you have this tropical storm taking place and just wreaking havoc. And back down below, they're trying to evacuate this guy. And that's where you have the helicopter come in. And, he's being, trying to get that guy out of there. But something that goes wrong with the helicopter because of the tropical storm. Long story short, the guy that got his arm bit off, they lost him in the water, and the helicopter crashes into Aquatica. And long story short, back down below, one of the sharks, they grab that one guy in the gurney, slam him into the glass, and from there, the laboratories down below start to flood. So Aquatica's taking on water, and the sharks, they go into the facilities, where again it's, flooding, and they start to hunt their prey. And so it's up to these characters to, stop these sharks, and at the same time, stop them from getting out into the ocean. And that's pretty much the plot of the film. And, like I said to start off the review, to me this is an entertaining flick. It's underrated. To me it deserves more than a 5.8 on IMDb. And again, when it comes to Renny Harlin, I'm a fan of his work, and I thought he did a really good job directing this movie. I thought he made an entertaining flick. And so I give Renny Harlin all the credit. But get into the cast. Thomas Jane, he's our main lead in the film, and this was his breakout role from my understanding, reading some trivia about the film. And I'm a big fan of Thomas Jane, and rewatching this, I actually watched this twice because watching it for the review, but there's also a commentary up here by Renny Harlin and Samuel Jackson, which I'll talk about. But Thomas Jane, getting back to him, I'm a big fan of Thomas Jane, and rewatching this, it's like, man, I wish, Thomas Jane was doing more movies, be the lead in more movies again. The guy deserves more. He was great as the Punisher. He was great in this movie. And I wish that, Thomas Jane would... I know he was in The Predator, which, that movie sucks. He was given nothing to do but have Tourette's. Yeah, I don't want to talk about that movie. But Thomas Jane, again, I'm a big fan of. I think the guy deserves more. Michael Rapaport, you've seen this guy before. He was in Copland, The Sixth Day, with Arnold. He was in True Romance. This guy you've seen before. And I thought he was a good support. Good supporting character in the film. You have LL Cool J as the cook, which he was a lot of fun in the movie. Definitely one of the highlights of the movie. And, his little bird. LL Cool J was fun. You have Stellan Skarsgård, who, this guy you've seen before, he was in Good Will Hunting. I thought he was good support. Samuel Jackson, what more can you say about Samuel Jackson? His character, and from my understanding, and they do talk about this on the commentary, that Samuel Jackson, the way they brought in his character and the way he went out, which, of course, his death in the film is certainly a memorable moment. They kind of compared it to Alien, how, really, when you look at that film, Tom Skerritt is the one character that we are familiar with. And you would never expect him to go out, to die. So they kind of compared it to that. And, Samuel Jackson, again, his death in the film certainly came out of nowhere. I remember the first time watching this, and when his scene came up, it's like, it took me back. I'm like, who's going to take the lead? Who's going to take charge now? So... Samuel Jackson, again, I thought he was good. He was great in the movie. And, it's funny because, talking about the commentary real quick, again, there's a commentary by Renny Harlin and Samuel Jackson, but after his character gets killed, he's like, okay, that's a wrap. And he left the commentary. So, I don't know if he was busy, it may have been he was working on a movie and he had to go film something, but yeah, after his death scene came up, he left the commentary. So, but again, Samuel Jackson was good. You have this character right here, Saffron Burrows, who is one of our main characters, the scientist, and she's, if there's a weak point with the film, I would say it's her character, because really, all of what happened is her fault. And I know there was an original ending in mind, which I'll talk about as well. But I would say, again, if there's a weak point with the film, it's her character. You also have Ronnie Cox appear in the film, in the beginning, where you have her character and Samuel Jackson in that office, and the guy sitting in the chair with no dialogue, that's Ronnie Cox. Yeah, the bad guy from RoboCop. So it was cool to see him in the film. So really good cast. For the most part, it's a really good cast. The dialogue is fun. Talking about the dialogue. LL Cool J and, his parrot going back and forth. There's some fun stuff there. But he had a lot of, the scenes where he's in his kitchen and there's water in the kitchen, the shark comes in and he gets trapped in his own oven, and he's like, I'm not Daniel and face the lion, and I'm not going to be cooked in my own oven. And yeah, it's just fun stuff like that. And LL Cool J, I would say, had the best lines in the film. uh, but good dialogue for the most part, you know. And, the body count was really good. And a really good body count and, like good, gore. Where you see blood, you see, like bodies torn apart, and you see limbs. And so the gore, like, they really, this is R-rated. And they will, they really went all out on the carnage. Which is something because, when I think about The Meg, that's a film that, that, trying to phrase it, the type of film that it is, you would think that they would go all out, that they would not hold back. And while I still like the movie, and I like Statham in the movie, but they did, hold back. And, being PG-13, and it's like, okay, you have this big shark, the Megalodon, you would expect more carnage, and they would amplify on the carnage. Which is why I prefer this movie over The Meg, because you do have more carnage, and these are Mako sharks. The Megalodon, of course, we know was a bigger, gigantic prehistoric shark. But here, it's R-rated. You get more carnage, more blood, more, bodies torn apart, body count. So again, that's what disappoints me about The Meg, is, the type of movie that the type of movie that The Meg is, and they just, they hold back, let it go, go all out with it, in regards to that movie. That's what they should have done. They should have just went all out with it. But, the body count and the carnage and, some of the kill scenes, I talked about Samuel Jackson's, kill scene was definitely a memorable moment. Where the shark bites the guy's arm off, and the shark, has the gurney, and he slams it into the window. Michael Rapaport's death. You have the one scene with the girl on, while they're in the shaft, the maintenance shaft. And the shark comes up like that and takes the girl. So, again, you have good carnage, good body count. And it's, you see blood, you see bodies torn apart. Now, granted, I mean, I get the CGI is not the best. And that's another weak point of the movie. There is some practical effects there, mechanical sharks, which I do appreciate. So when you do see mechanical sharks and the practical effects on the screen, I do appreciate that, and I love that. But, again, I can understand, about the CGI not being the best. So, I would say that's another weak point with the film. But, I guess I could talk about the box office. Let's see here. And I had it up. Okay. Actually, I wrote it down, so what am I doing? So, when the film came out, I mean, it had a budget of $82 million, and total gross, it made $164.6 million. And I think the same month, this film came out, you also have The Blair Witch come out, The Blair Witch Project. So, of course, we know that was a big hit. So you can, that's probably why this film, it made some money, but not as much as it could have. Which I think that, maybe this should have been a bigger hit. But, the Blair Witch Project, came in and, cleaned house. So, but, it was a summer release. I mean, it came out in July of 99. So again, maybe it should have been a bigger hit. But, yeah, so, I mean, it made its money back. I mean, it made double. Or, yeah, I mean, a budget of $82 million made $165 million pretty much. And, I was talking about the commentary again. And the commentary itself on the film, I mean, again, you have Renny Harlin and Samuel Jackson. It's a decent commentary. You know, Renny Harlin is, talks about more about the technical side of it, the film. You know, Samuel Jackson, when he's in the film for a little bit, like on the commentary, he makes some jokes here and there, which is fun. But, after his character got killed, he left the commentary, so again, maybe he had some other priorities, obligations. But, again, it's a decent commentary from Renny Harlin. And you do have some other features up here. You have some deleted scenes, a making of, a couple of featurettes. And the people that wrote this movie, you have Duncan Kennedy, which, doing some research before, I don't think he went on to do much. And you have Donna Powers, which I believe she went on to write or have a hand in the screenplay for the Italian Job remake. So, she worked on that. But these writers didn't go on to do much. When I was looking it up on IMDb, the writers didn't go on to do much. But I guess I can talk about that original ending for the film, which I did pull up an article here. And this is from Sci-Fi Wire. This was posted a few years ago, so here we go. This talks about the original ending, how her character lived in the original cut of the film. And I'll put the link to this article down below as well. But it says, so in the end, the big money shot is the death of Saffron Burrows, this character, who was involved in the research. But in the original cut, Burrows made it out alive with Jane and LL Cool J. The original ending stayed in place until some test audiences saw the flick and absolutely hated it. So they did a quick reshoot less than a month before release and had her get devoured by a CGI shark, and the crowd went wild. The director Renny Harlin talked about the changes in an interview after being asked by a reporter who saw the original cut in a test screening. Renny Harlin says, yeah, it was one of those great surprises where we thought, okay, we hope it works. At the test screening, as you might remember, the audience was really with the movie, and when Samuel Jackson gets eaten, the audience was screaming and laughing, and we thought, okay, it's a home run. When it came to the last 7 minutes of the film, all of a sudden it just fell flat like a pancake, and people kind of hated it. We were like, what the hell happened? It just shows how sometimes you can be clueless and you're so deep in the project that you can't read the audience's mind. Basically what had happened was that the audience felt so deeply that the scientist character, the woman who was behind the whole experiment with the sharks, that it was all her fault. In their minds, she was the bad guy. In our minds, she was the heroine, and we thought saving her was the key. Basically, we had test cards that said, kill that bitch. It was an amazing revelation. I remember all of us sitting down and going, holy shit, we are in trouble. How do we fix this? It was my idea, I said. Okay, we don't have time for a big reshoot, but I have an idea. When she falls in the water, what if she doesn't survive? She gets eaten by the sharks, and LL Cool J is the hero. Everybody likes him. And Thomas Jane. We did a one-day reshoot at Universal Studios tank, and it was a really simple shoot we did in order to change the ending of it. We did some CG work on the sharks and stuff like that, but it was a super fast fix, and it saved the movie because the audience got what they wanted. It just goes to show that no matter how smart we think we are, it's the audience who will tell us how it's really supposed to be. So yeah, there was the ending could have been different, but I'm glad Renny Harlin stepped in and changed it because, you can't stand that character, and, she deserved a comeuppance. I'm just being honest, So, yeah, that's pretty cool, reading about that. But, and great score. I forgot to mention the score, too. I mean, get this guy's name here. I saw it somewhere. Trevor Rabin. Really good score to the film. I almost forgot to mention that. But a great score. Almost sort of, I don't want to say like Jaws, but it has that sort of memorable, like kind of a dark score, but a fun score, if that makes sense. But yeah, I really enjoyed that score. And yeah, I mean, the production value, I really love the sets and the underwater labs. And, I know Renny Harlin on the commentary talked about the use of miniatures and stuff like that. And, I just really loved the way, like I really loved how, these laboratories looked and you believed that it was underwater. And there were some CG shots in there. He does talk about that in the commentary. But to me, it looked good. I mean, from the underwater labs and, the different corridors and stuff like that. And you believe that this place was flooded and, Aquaticus taking on water and has sort of like a claustrophobia, like it's closed in and, there's great suspense. It makes for great suspense in the film. So, yeah, I mean, overall, at the end of the day, Deep Blue Sea, again, is an entertaining flick. I do, again, like I said before, I do find it underrated. I know there's a sequel out there. I've seen it around. I'm not checking it out. I don't want to... I'm trying to preserve some brain cells. I've seen plenty of really bad shark movies. If you go back, I think a few months back, or however long it's been now, or was it last year? Man, there were some really bad shark movies that I watched. So, I've been there. But yeah, I do know about the sequel, Deep Blue Sea 2, but I'm not going to watch that. It didn't need a sequel. But, again, at the end of the day, Deep Blue Sea, entertaining flick. It's a lot of fun, really good cast, great score, great production value, great body count, great carnage. It's R-rated. Good direction from Renny Harlin. I thought you did a really good job with this movie. Good suspense, and yeah, I mean, underrated flick. So, and again, deserves more than a 5.8 on IMDb. That's just my opinion. But that's my review of Deep Blue Sea. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you guys later.